October 13th. Happy birthday, son. Austin Apache Brooks. Happy birthday, man. I'm proud of you and I love you. Episode 6. Game for the game. You get your game from your mama. Man. Ooh-wee. Before we get too far into it, always remember your purpose. What's up, Keyshawn? Man, if you know me, you done rock and roll with me, you done listen to a video, then I probably come across overly masculine. I teach from an overly masculine perspective. I big up my daddy, my uncles, the OGs, the G's, and a whole bunch of cats I ran with, you know, that I learned and studied from. Even my peers use them as teaching lessons. But that ain't nothing but icing. That ain't nothing but framework. Nothing but icing. Today I'm talking about cake. Foundation. I'm gonna step away from the icing and framework for a little while and get down to foundations, man. You get your game from your mama, and I stand on that one, you know. And I go, like I say, I always start off kind of superficial, and then I work my way into what I'm trying to give to you. Man, if you come from a traditional upbringing background, you probably got your daddy last name. If you blessed, you lucky, your mama may have your daddy last name. And that's what you walk off into the world with when people greet you, you know what I'm saying? They looking at your family name. And a lot of us got the misunderstanding, misconception that that's where our game is coming from. But you got to look further into it than that. Really look at what you move around, like who family you resemble. You get your game from your mama, boy. You get your game from your mama. So that's why I spend a lot of time trying to make sure in my life that the women that are raising my sons, if they listen to me at all, that I'll go at teaching them more than I go at teaching my son, even though, because I know if I can get the message across to them, it's gonna filter to them, to my son. I can tell them, be barking on him all the time, but that mama, man, that's the most powerful thing in a man's life. You get your game from your mama. And I'm gonna set my foundation by quoting one of the best I ever seen do it. One of the main quotes I used to hear her say, "Mama love you." And 2, what she'll say before you leave out that house, "Don't shame the name." What she'll say when you make a fool out yourself and she see you headed down that wrong path, "Don't shame the name." That's my grandma, Ellen Brooks, that gave me that. I remember her saying that, not just to be like when she wanted to get her point across and she saw you about to mess up out in them streets, she wanted you to know it's bigger than you. Don't shame this name that everybody else walk up under. That name came from my grandfather, but I never met him. You know, not cognitively, you know, maybe as a child, he died before I was 2 or 3. So I'm looking at the strongest person in my family on my street was my grandma. So I'm gonna tell a few stories today, man, as far as, cause the game, I can give you some book lessons and stuff, son, but I'm gonna tell you some stories, some history lessons, some stuff that when I reflect on it, it brings light to me where I got my game from. I'm a country boy by nature. You know, I was raised up on Wallaceville between my 2 grandma houses, one in the Sawmill Quarter, one Brooks, Miss Ellen Brooks, the foundation, the Wallaceville Road, you know. And I say that because I mean that. But like, she was the type of woman you couldn't cuss in front of her house. You know, nobody cussed in front of her house. Nobody cussed in front of the 2 houses near her. You can't smoke cigarettes 2 houses from her house. You can't drink in front of her house. And everybody knew it. And it wasn't just her family. Everybody knew that. And nobody broke them laws. I don't know what would have happened if you broke them rules, but you just didn't do it because you didn't want to find out how it was going to come down on you with them Brooks boys that she had full control over. But like I say, you get your game from your mama. And My mother was in the military and she was gone, and I was living with my grandma Ellen Brooks with a whole bunch of my cousins, like a lot of black folks do when your mama doing whatever she doing, whether it's positive, negative, in the street, out the street. But my mother was gone in the military, so that's how I ended up living with my grandma. But I remember, man, my grandma used to raise guineas and geese and chickens and grow squash and corn, and I'd be out there working with her in the field and everything. But one thing I had this infatuation with is them hogs. See, we raise hogs. My grandma raised hogs. Every 4th of July, they slaughter 1 or 2 of them hogs, and we have a big old, man, hundreds of people coming. We family members of Brookses and Cooks, and we get together and we slaughter hogs and cook them. But I had them picked up on that, and so it was this hog back there my Uncle Ted was tending to. And every time chance I get, I go back there and mess with that hog. I throw rocks at him, pop that hog. Nigga, you something to eat. You go into my belly. I talk noise to the hog. I'm about 4, 5 years old. And my Uncle Ted, leave that hog alone. You know, he said it his way. Leave that hog alone. Basically, everybody tell him, leave that hog alone. Quit messing with that hog. Quit always bothering that hog. And one day I was messing with the hog again, but I wasn't paying attention to that gate. I was out there with my grandma, and I threw a rock and hit the hog, or maybe this time I probably even messed with the hog, but I had to mess with him so much that hog knew he ain't like me. So I was by that fence doing something. They said, I know, I seen that gate was open, and that hog seen that gate at the same time. It seemed like he made a run for it. he come through the gate full blast right at me. My voice go up 100 octaves. You know, and so I take off running. I think my daddy's out there. And this how powerful my grandma was. My daddy, everybody scared of my daddy in the street. Nobody wanted to really deal with him. I ran right by him though, and ran straight to my grandma Ellen. Because I wanted to go to the person I know could protect me. I wanted to go to the real power, because I was in my most frightened state I ever been. So I ran right by my daddy, right past my Uncle Ted, and jumped on my grandma, and I felt that hog breathing on me. But I knew if I get to my grandma, everything's gonna be all right, man. Because that was the most powerful woman. That's the best who ever done did it, man. You know what I'm saying? And I start with one of her quotes, don't shame the name. Because she giving you game, she was giving her family game and setting them out into the world. And she expect you to live a certain way because you was coming, that name represented her and represent the product that she was putting out in the street, and she understood that. So when she wouldn't tell you doing bad, these white folks gonna get on you, lock you up. That ain't what she's saying. She say, don't shame that name. Don't make me look bad, because you get your game from me. So if you go out here messing up, you shaming my name. I got to go out here in these streets with it. And my grandma walked in the street with her head up. In a time in Texas, Liberty, Texas, where a lot of black people didn't walk around like that. I remember being with her, you know, going to the that line where you get the commodity cheese and or going to the get some feed for them animals. And I just remember how people going to Brookshire Brothers, and I know how people interact with my grandma, the respect she had. And she passed that on down to her children. And she didn't want nobody playing on that. Nobody stepping on that, you know? And that's how I'm again this with her. That's my foundation. One of the strongest women I ever came across, man. And I just knew right then my name was important. My name didn't only represent me, it represented my family. And I didn't want to shame her. I didn't want to shame anybody with that name. Don't shame the name. I remember her saying that. That was something she stood on. And it got the point across. And when she said that, people's ears perked up and they remember her teachings. Because if they didn't remember them teachings, they remember probably other things she did. She warmed that back up. So I'm gonna move down the line to my mama, you know, where I got my temperament. And I'm gonna tell you a little story about that one. Again, fear. When you scared, you run to power. And I remember speaking of my mother being in that military, right? Right. So our first experience as a military brat was in Kansas, Wichita. I think it might have been Fort Riley, man. We just moving in 6 or 7. I ain't never even lived in an apartment before. So me and my brother, we don't know how this apartment stuff go. We on the 2nd floor. We like to wrestle. We throwing hands and wrestling while my mom at work. And she told us, hey, this is what she want done. But so while me and my brother in that apartment wrestling, we making so much noise. The dude underneath was in my mother's company, battalion. They was in the same unit. So they was very familiar with each other. So anyway, man, we up here wrestling and running around and this, that, and the next, and then he hit the floor with a broom or a mop or something. Boom, boom, boom. Like I said, I'm from the country. I ain't never lived on top of nobody before, so I ain't never heard that like that. It scared me. So, you know, little boys, you know, we cool, 15, 20 minutes. And I guess he's sleeping, trying to get ready to go do his job the next day, and we interrupted him. We get to wrestling, fighting again. Boom, 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 boom. You know, he scared the hell out of us again. Like, oh, man, it's crazy. So, you know, then we was like, all right, man, let's be cool. So all we doing now, we trying to be cool. We cleaning up like my mama told us to. Boom, 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 boom. He hit that thing again. So now we shook up. And then matter of fact, he even escalated. He came and beat on the door. Boom, boom, boom. You little niggas better be sit still, sit your ass down if I bust y'all ass. You know, now our eyes big as hell. Now we scared. So me and my brother got on the couch and wouldn't get off. You know, because I didn't want him to come back and kick in that door. You know, we scared as hell. So, you know, we tiptoed around the house for a little while, but we tried to keep on that couch for the rest of the day until my mama got back. So my mama got home, her and my aunt Peg, and they got in, and they seen us sitting on that couch like an Indian style and wouldn't get off of it, really. So mama, as soon as she got to the door, you know, hard day at work in the military, she already irritated, and she got to go to work again as a waitress at her second job. After she got out the army, she went and waited tables at Bonanza. So, she was like, what's wrong with y'all? Mama, he done beat on the floor, he done beat on the door, he told us not to move. Mama said, what? So I seen my mama go get her pistol. She go in the back room, grab a gun. Go straight down, come on, Pete. She told her sister, come on. So they went on downstairs. So me and my mama said, sit your ass here, don't move. So I'm about to see this, I don't give a damn. So she going downstairs, she knock on the door, boom, boom, boom. That nigga come out. Hey, you been yelling at my kids, scaring my kids? Man, why he say what he say? Why he say what he said? You know what he said? He say, bitch, I'm gonna crack this boy on top of his head with a pistol. And I sat in his chest, whooping. I'm like, oh God, my mama real. I remember the confidence in me, man. I'm in a strange land, but I seen my mama handle that dude, swell both his eyes up, bust him up. Then he had a wife, a girlfriend there or something. She get to screaming and hollering. Next thing I know, my Aunt Pig dive in on her ass. I'm getting her too, because she didn't want to be left out the ass whooping contest. You know what I'm saying? So my mama done whooped this man in her unit. It blows back later on, you know, because he ended up breaking all the windows out her Mustang, her Cobra GT she had. My mama bad. But he broke all the windows out of her car a month or two later in the middle of the night. But anyway, I go back to say you get your game from your mama. And with me watching my grandma be a stand-up woman and listening to her lessons and understanding what my name was and what it meant to me, not only me, it didn't belong to me, it belonged to my family. I'm watching my mother defend her family by any means. She went up against a military man by herself. That man trained to kill too. But when it came down to family, nothing was gonna stop her from protecting hers, you know? And that game, that's a standard that I had to live by, you know what I'm saying? And that was just one of the eye-opening moments with my mother. There was many more it took a fear away from me of other people out there. I didn't have my daddy with me, living with me. It was just me, my mom, and my brother, and my aunt sometime, and her daughter, Keyshawn. But I knew then I didn't have to be afraid. You know, I didn't have to be afraid of nothing. Somebody had my back, so it made me more confident when I walked out in the street. Like, you know, I was timid. You know, you in a new environment, you in apartments coming from the country, and you afraid to walk out there. Really, I didn't know what the world had to offer me at such a young age, but I knew I had a fear that went away that day because I knew I had something strong behind me, a strong mama, stronger than what was in her was stronger than what was out there in my mind. Like, hey, my mama the baddest one on the planet. She Mike Tyson. So we'll talk about some other women, man, that laid some strong game down for me, man. And if I'm gonna talk about the next woman, I'm gonna say my aunt's sister and her daughter Tamika, man. When I was living with my grandma Ellen, those was really my caregivers, man. Everything I was learning and needing when my mother was away, they were providing it. My sister would set up a stencil and teach everybody in that house they ABCs. You know, school was important. Before we got to school, we knew our alphabet. We knew how to spell our name. We knew our address. We knew our phone numbers. And Mary, my aunt's sister, out of 9 kids, they had one girl, my Aunt Ellen, and that's that's why they call her sister. But you know, she was a big foundational piece for me. You know, when even to this day in Texas, if something going on in Texas and people want to reach out to me or got a problem with something I'm doing family wise, they don't call my mama. They call my aunt sister, man. My Aunt Susu, man. A story about her. Like, I didn't have to wash dishes at my grandma Ellen's house because she was so old school. She said that woman worked, so Tamika had to wash all the dishes. You know, at my grandma May's old house, she washed them all. She did it. You know, she didn't let me do nothing like that. But my Aunt Susu taught me something, man. And she didn't make me wash dishes either, but she made Big H and Gerald. And so I remember me and Big H hang, kick it all day long. We would go back to his house 9:30, 10 o'clock at night when it was time for him to check in before we went out again. Man, we're walking Aunt Susu, Uncle Sonny's house. It'd be a big old piles of dishes up to the ceiling, it looked like, man. Big old pans, because they had 7, 8 people and grandkids and all these people living at their household. She cooked big old meals. But it didn't matter. Harold didn't do none of them dishes in that sink. But it was his dishwashing day. And I just learned from watching. I go in that house and, you know, she asked me, I want something to eat and this here. And she's like, Junior, you ain't going back outside till them dishes done. You know, you got your chores. And like, and he just be like, but I just, man, he my partner. And you know how we was. I'm like, shoot, since I'm here, hey, cuz, let me roll up my arm. I don't have to wash dishes at home, but let me roll up my arm and get in there with him and wash dishes with him, you know? And I just learned a lot of lessons, and she always made me very comfortable and just stuff like that. People don't even know you picking up on. But I learned that from her, and he was getting his game from her. And she was having him drive at 11 and 12 years old. He out, looked like a grown man driving, you know? My godmother, Betty Edwards, man, played the piano in church, man. And I just remember on, like, birthdays and Christmas, man, I ain't never had to feel too low, man, because I know if she saw me, I was getting a gift. I was getting something nice. I was getting something better than everybody else was getting from her. You know, when my mother was out the picture doing her military thing. You know, and my Aunt Peg and Lee, you know, it goes without saying, you know, my Aunt Lee was like tough love. I ain't have a lot of interaction with her when I was young, but the few times she always was like, you tougher than that. Like, what you worried about? Like, because behind closed doors, I would be having emotional problems. She'd be like, boy, what you doing? You know, like, for instance, when my mother went to the Gulf War, I was at home and I had me sad. She was like, what you sad for? And I was like, I'm scared. She's like, ain't no reason to be scared. Your mama all right. Everything gonna be all right. Your mama a soldier. You a soldier. Tighten up. Yes, ma'am. You know, man, my grandma Mayzola, you know, sweetheart. You know, and I learned a lot from her as far as that feminine energy on being a rock. Being a rock, you know, and no matter what the world showed her, she was like mistreated. You know, I thought, you know, I used to think that in my head as a child, like, I don't like how my granddaddy treat her. I don't like the energy he give her. But it didn't change the energy she put out to the world. Like, she's a turn lemonades out of lemon person in my life, man. You know, lemons into lemonade. And I'm real, so I'm gonna keep it real. I remember when I was younger, real young, and my granddaddy was hell on wheels after he was 2 different people once he started drinking. He get drunk, he want to fight everybody. He fight his kids, he fight his wife for my eye. You know, he still was my best friend, but I didn't like how he would handle my grandma when he got drunk. I don't know if my mind made it up or not, but I swear she'd get drunk and my grandma would go out in the woods and hide and let him calm down and cool off. And no matter how he cussed out, talked to her down, she was up making breakfast. She was smiling at me, hugging me. Like, no matter how bad he treated her, it never blew back on me. It never changed her approach to me. You know, I always felt like the greatest love with her. Like, I knew my grandma, like, loved me, you know, and no matter what was going on with her, you know. And she made other people show me love. I remember my Uncle Dunray and Chuck used to want to go out to the club. I'm a little bitty boy. And they go party, and I'd be sitting in the room crying. She'd be like, Monte, what's wrong with you? I was like, well, Dunray and Chuck don't leave me and go to the club. She's like, no, they ain't. She said, Dunray, Chuck, get in here. They be like, yes, man, what you need? She said, y'all get ready to go somewhere? I said, yeah, we get ready to go party. She said, well, take. She's like, well, he 10. He can't go with her. She said, if he can't go, y'all can't go. Y'all ain't going nowhere. They're like, well, get on in the car, little nigga, then. And hey, so I ended up going out to the club, man. But anyway, I get back to I wanted to tell a couple stories about strong women, and I believe you get your game from your mom. I believe you're a reflection of your mama's energy when you out here in the world. When the world see you, you got your daddy name. You might look like your daddy. You might be built like your daddy, but it's your mama game that you approaching this world with. It's the hygiene she taught you. She taught you how to make your bed in the morning. She taught you how to keep your chin up. You know what I'm saying? That's come from your mama. Your daddy might teach you how to fight. You know, your mama teach you how to think and maneuver. Fighting such a small part of what's important in this world, being tough. That's such a small portion of it. But even the toughness that your mama teach you is going to be more valuable than anything your daddy can bring to you. So you got to show honor to these women. You know, you got to show honor to your mama, because that's where you're getting it from. And you can also, when you see a dude who mama coddled him too much, that's easy to see. Like, damn, boy, you soft as hell. Your mama must have been soft. You know, she should have. I ain't gonna say that. Anyway, man, I hope that kind of. I didn't go as far into that as I wanted to. I wanted to do more storytelling than teaching and giving flowers and paying respect and showing homage to what I know. I know these guys that I talk about all the time, and the hood stories I may tell, and how they taught me this here, that ain't nothing but the icing. You know, it was the cake. It was how those women set me out into the world that made me able to sponge up with those men, the men I was apprenticeship under, and it was what the woman gave me that allowed me to absorb what those men had to offer. Because if I didn't have such strong women around me, man, men don't want to teach no soft ass child nothing, man. They don't even want to be around you if your temperament ain't right. You spoil, you bouncing off the wall and all that there, man. Man, on another note, like I say, I always try to throw two hands at you. You know, play two hands at the same time. So this here. This is a special package I got right here. This is the next project I'm gonna work on. And what they say, man, this is a handwritten. It's 200 pages. One thing I know and I stand on and I believe in, I had started organizing this the other day, putting these papers in order. This been sitting up above my microwave, above the cabinet for about 3 years. Man, I want to say 3 years. When my Uncle Dunray came home, and you know what that mean, what it mean. When he came home from them people holding camp, he had wrote that book, hand wrote it. It's on 200 pages, man. And he gave it to me. He say, nephew, man, help me with this here. He say, I want to publish this book. And he didn't know what to do with it. He just wrote it. I said, oh, Uncle, I got you. But I've been sitting on that book for, like I said, about 3 years. I read the first couple pages, it's good. But I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, damn, it's handwritten. I'm gonna have to type this thing up. I was like, man, that's gonna take me a long time to type up 200 pages, and I never sat the time aside to really do it. So I wanna just put that into the atmosphere. But I'm gonna do more than just type it up. I'm not gonna type it up. I'm gonna do another Audible book. Because, like I said, one thing I stand on, and I didn't finish that, but my mind be bouncing, is if you can't help yourself, help somebody else. That's the greatest way to get yourself out of some situations, man. You find yourself in a situation where you can't help yourself and you don't have the answers for yourself, help somebody else. And I say that saying, I'm an author. I got books I got written that I don't really want to fool with them right now. So I can't help myself as an author right now. But I got my uncle project he wrote. It would mean 100 times more for me to help him than it would be to help myself. For me to just put another log on my fire, you know, I don't think that's gonna generate the energy I need. But if I can help my uncle, man, bring what he done poured his heart into, where he done took all them hours, all that time, 200 pages on a pencil, and he got them numbered. I looked at it. I went through all of them and looked at it, man. There's Mansa Musa in the background. Research. But anyway, man, son, I hopefully this time I spend in front of this camera trying to put some game down on the ground. Some game for the game. You know, I hope this one here, you can get a vitamin from it as well, you know. Anyway, man, anybody that listen to me, anybody that rock and roll with me, man, thank you for your time. Your time is valuable. And I still try to stay in my purpose, teaching my sons, putting the breadcrumbs down for them to follow, making sure they know you get your game from your mama. Even if you do feel like you got a whole lot from me, your daddy, I ain't nothing but icing, man. I am nothing but icing. I am not your foundation. Your mama is. And I want you to remember that and know that. Cause I never been faded. Act a fool cause I never been faded. Act a fool cause I never been faded. I was told there's no limit, thank you Master P. Meal ticket with this flow like some ballin' G or some pimpin'.